Okay, at long last, I'm resuming my commentary on the Urantia book. This time I'll try to read it off of the computer screen so I don't have my nose buried in the book all the time. So this is section 4, covering universe reality, section 4 of the foreword. And this is interesting because what I was just talking about was, these new realities we have to have faith in. And why can't we just be shown everything? And this really is a question of reality. Is there really a celestial administration? Are there really these other planets? Are there really the Urantia realms, the divisions of the super universes and the local universes and all this structure, planets, beings? I mean, the Urantia book outlines this incredible array of what is supposed to be universe reality, and we have to take it to a certain degree on faith. You know, I've just started reading one of the Sherman diaries, where Harold Sherman is going through his whole struggle with discovering that Dr. Sadler is apparently adding his own contributions to the Urantia revelations, and obviously Sadler was completely masterminding, absolutely controlling the whole process of the papers coming through, and hiding his tracks, hiding what he was doing. So there's all kinds of room for doubt when it comes to faith. You know, and for me it's been something very difficult, because my whole thing is having, I guess, a kind of faith in the quality or the reliability of the deep trans-channel process. Once you discover Edgar Cayce, for instance, you know, I have faith in Edgar Cayce's ability to access the universal mind, access God at some certain level, you know, the Akashic record, access portions of reality that we can't directly observe, but apparently he can directly observe it. You know, and I hate to diverge and rabbit trail so early on but in the video, but I must. I was just thinking yesterday about what is really going on here. What is this big struggle? And it's this struggle with that we all have in understanding the universe around us. You know, basically there's the small part of the world and the universe around you that you directly observe. You know, we know that we got up in the morning, we know that we brushed our teeth, or if we did, or we know we took a shower, if we did, or we ate breakfast, we know what we ate. You know, it's like I have a camera here. I know I have this camera. I know there's a camera in my hand. I can feel it. It's like this quality of direct observation. And that is a level of truth for us, a level of understanding, a level of appreciation of reality. And of course, you start to get philosophical about it. The reality is based on consciousness. You know, how conscious am I of this camera, and what is it really? What if it is just nothing but interacting energy fields at in electron shells and stuff, and how real is that? You know, but for me, it's this camera, it's this device. I can take pictures. It performs this function. It's about this process. You know, I'm engaging in this process of existing in this three-dimensional localized existence. There's functional things that objects that I believe are real can do for me, and they help me achieve ends. You know, so it all kind of, this whole system, this whole logical system we're locked into, creates its own little reality, and we call things real or not real based upon the functionality they serve in that system, based upon what we can observe directly or not. But when we deal with the expansion of consciousness, which is what things like the Urantia book, what hard science, any kind of discovery or advancement, or just talking to your neighbor about what he witnessed when you didn't, all these things are about the expansion of consciousness, something that's a step or two or three or who knows how many beyond just immediate observation, this immediate little localized system that we have going on. So it really comes down to me, the types of information that we can get, and you can divide it up pretty easily. There's information that you directly observe, and there's information that somebody else directly observed. And really, my viewpoint has always been, beyond that, beyond those two things, that's it. Everything else is hot air. It's all conjecture. It's all just, you know, it could be absolute bull. And even when you're talking about the scriptures, you talk about the Bible. I mean, to me, the only reliable part about the Bible is something that's based upon actual observations. If it's some prophet that actually observed something with a psychic vision or something, if it's an angel of the Lord that actually visited, some place or observed something, if it's God Himself who observes everything, written down, it's all about somebody who actually sees, actually witnesses, actually is involved with something that's really happening, whatever that means. But the assumption is there are real events. There are other systems, probably much larger than ours. Ours is probably a small part of a bigger logical system, but there are these logical systems involving meaningful interactions, events, and within that system there are truths. It's like the coin is heads up or tails up. That's a truth. It's either tails up or it's heads up. So within a given logical system at a given point in time, there are these things that are like concrete truths with a small t, that we can cling to. And as far as absolute truth with a big T, meaning something that you just read somewhere and you beat other people over the head with, well, that's all bullshit. Sorry, pardon the expression, but it's all crap. It's all, at a certain level, it all comes down, in my mind, to observation. What can we observe? What have other people observed? And what people can we trust when they tell us about our observations? And so, in my mind, there always has to be some kind of, at least a claim, some kind of reasonable claim that there was some type of observation. So with a deep trance channel like Casey or Paul Solomon or whatnot, the claim is that they're contacting entities on the other side that see these other things, interact with these other things, or that the channel themselves are able to like maybe in the case of a conscious trance channel or clairvoyant or something, they're able to go into a state of consciousness where they can directly witness with varying degrees of fidelity, but they can directly witness things on the other side or other things that we can't necessarily see right now. It all comes down to observation. And that this whole thing with the Urantia book, the big question for me was there a reliable deep trance channel that really was contacting actual entities on the other side that actually did have a mandate as part of their system that they were in? They had some type of mandate from some type of authorities to communicate something like the Urantia book in the form of papers through that channel. Did that actually happen or did it not? Was it something made up out of the imagination of William Sadler or who knows else, or his little circle of friends or somebody else, and he just found it? Or was the deep trance channel involved actually pulling the wool over everybody's eyes and actually just making this stuff up out of the seat of his pants? Was he some kind of genius where he could just crank out this kind of structure willy-nilly? Or what? It's like, what was really going on? And so to a certain degree, you have to have some kind of faith. It's like when I directly observe this camera, I have to have faith that somebody hasn't put me under and put me into some kind of virtual reality simulation. And it's like the Matrix, it just made me think like I'm watching and observing something. I have to at least have faith that, okay, I am awake, I am conscious to some degree, and so I am actually observing actual objects, actual events within at least some kind of system that I happen apparently to be involved in. And so again, with the Urantia book, you have to have faith to a certain degree that there was a process. There are entities on the other side. They did this. They did have this stuff to communicate. They did successfully communicate it through a deep trance channel. And to a certain degree, you have to have faith that it was minimally tampered with by Dr. Sadler and or others. For me to sit here and give you a commentary on a paper like this, that is a mark that I actually at least have some degree, a reasonable degree of faith that that particular paper I am doing the commentary on was the real deal. That it is a relatively pure, straightforward delivery of the actual information as it came through the deep trance channel that was the core of the revelation of the Urantia book. That channel, that delivery of that information was reasonably pure, and what we are reading is, for the most part, the unaltered text that came through. The minute that faith, the minute I start to think this is 3/4, the minute I start to think somebody like Sadler glossed over a paper he got, threw it in the garbage, and then just sat down and wrote down something out of the seat of his pants, the minute I think that's what I'm reading, that's it. No more commentary. That's not a paper I'm going to read, or if I am giving a commentary on it, that's what we're going to be discussing. And I would just like to say at this point that I am greatly thankful for people like Matthew Block and others. I'm grateful to the Shermans for putting together their diaries, all the letters and their diaries and the papers, and publishing them, and so we can go back and read and try to at least get a flavor for the observations of some of the people that were involved, even though there's all this smoke being blown and all these screens and deception and everything, that we can start to get a glimpse of what's going on. I'm thankful to Matthew Block for doing all the work of finding other books that were in existence in the library in Chicago that apparently Sadler and or others accessed when they plagiarized those portions and fabricated these portions of the Urantia book, including fabricating these mandates to take ideas of mankind and put them forward. I mean, I'm sorry, in my opinion, it's all absolute bullshit, and it's ridiculous for anybody to expect us to believe that there was any kind of mandate from on high to plagiarize the works of mankind and pollute this pure delivery of information from on high, to pollute it with this crap, for people to sit down and waste their time and our time to muddle up this whole thing. You take this apparently pure delivery directly through a deep trance channel, that just for the sake of it being unaltered by human conscious thought, and then you spend like 10 years or more just muddling it up with all this extra garbage that you mix in with it, and then you serve this up to us as the Urantia book. It's like, thank you, Sadler and all others who were involved in that fiasco, for creating this extra garbage that we all have to wade through. But thankfully, at least I have a certain degree of faith that this whole first portion of the book that deals with celestial beings, organization of the universe, a forward like this, at least it seems to me that probably more by virtue of how obscure the stuff is, how high level it is, and just how far out it is, it remains almost 100% unperturbed. And so I guess if for no other reason, it's probably my favorite portion of the book, simply because to me I have the most faith that it is the most pure and probably the closest of all the material therein to a straightforward and true representation of the actual material that came through the channel the first time, before it was ever tampered with, before it ever was marked by the hand of man. So, here we go. Section 4 of the foreword, covering none other than universe reality, exactly what we're talking about. And it's very interesting because, of course, the question of reality has everything to do with the person witnessing that reality, and realizing that the mind is a filter, realizing that we are intentionally looking through a glass darkly, as the Bible puts it, realizing that we have a very limited perception through which we are observing what we call reality. We can definitely have a hefty appreciation for how reality has as much or more to do with the person observing, the entity observing, as it does have to do with actual mathematical locations of person, places, or things, or occurrences of events, or locations of objects and stuff. But so that's exactly what this is talking about. Section 4 of the foreword, entitled Universe Reality. It starts out, reality differentially actualizes on diverse universe levels. And we can start to see this. I mean, when we're talking about multidimensional reality. This little box that we're in right now, that we call the Earth, that we call three-dimensional existence, it's obviously one dimension, one rung of the ladder. And you start to read up on all the different types of channels out there and things, and you start to learn about all these different vibrations. And as you raise your state of vibration, you get into astral projection and stuff. They tell them the same thing. As you raise your rate of vibration, you lock into all these different channels, and you start to see different things and different entities until you start getting up a few notches, and the areas you're witnessing, the people and entities you're witnessing, have no resemblance to the physical reality that we're currently involved in. So there you go. That is reality actualizing on diverse universe levels. That's just a statement, a pure statement right there about the multidimensional nature of existence. It continues. Reality originates in and by the infinite volition of the Universal Father. So there you go. Creation unfolding real time, all the time, from God Himself. And is realizable in 3 primal phases on many different levels of universe actualization. And so here, a gift of the Urantia book, starting to provide us a little bit of structure that we didn't have before. The number 3, it's telling us that actualization is realizable in 3 primal phases, apparently 3 basic subdivisions that actualize on many different levels of universe actualization. And those 3 phases, before I go read the specific paragraphs, are undeified reality, deified reality, and interassociated reality. Time for a drink. So, whether or not your reality is deified, meaning having to do with God, obviously. Undeified reality ranges from the energy domains of the non-personal, sounds kind of like physical, cold hard reality to me, or what a scientist would call physical reality, ranges from that to the reality realms of the non-personalizable values of universal existence. So that's a very general term when you're just saying values, non-personalizable values. But yes, I can appreciate that there are certain concepts, states of being, factualizations or actualizations of reality that are non-personalizable. That can't form a personal entity, that can't form a locus of identity. Anyway, so we're talking about things that are undeified. We're talking about also non-personalizable values of universal existence, even to the presence of the unqualified absolute, which is interesting because the unqualified absolute is supposedly something that is all-encompassing and is hinted at on the kind of the fringes of comprehension, and kind of hinting that there's this border where the non-living and living intersect, or the undeified and deified, because of course the unqualified absolute would be an angle from which to witness to God Himself, from how I understand it. And so when we're talking about undeified reality, even that, non-personalizable values of universal existence extending even to the presence of the unqualified absolute. So maybe I'm reading too much into it. Maybe it's just trying to say that everything that you wouldn't normally characterize as personalizable, as identifying with the person of God, we'll call it undeified reality. However you want to look at that. Again, interesting wording. On the one hand, you could say it's deliberately obscure, written by a madman. On the other hand, you could say it's the best language that could be used to characterize what they're trying to say, using human thoughts and ideas, using the English language. And I'm leaning towards the latter. If I didn't, I wouldn't be reading this to you, I guess. Okay, so that was part number 1 of the 3 primal phases on which reality is realizable. The phase of undeified reality. The phase of deified reality embraces all of infinite deity potential. So I guess everything that is God, ranging upward through all realms of personality, which would include us and all personalities, I guess, from the lowest finite to the highest infinite. And I guess from what I gather, we're pretty close to the bottom rung. You could probably claim that minerals and animals and things are types of personality below us from a broad perspective, especially from the perspective of the deep trance channels, but we're definitely getting down there. But anyway, we're still apparently we fall under, since we're personalizable, we fall under the phase of deified reality, ranging from the lowest finite to the highest infinite, thus encompassing the domain of all that which is personalizable and more, even to the presence of the deity absolute. So I guess it does use specific language differentiating the deity absolute from the unqualified absolute. And yes, I realize these are insane things, and I'm sure at some point, whether I do it or not, it would be very useful for me, if I could, to get some diagrams and kind of outline some of these differences. And there are papers that deal with all of these things specifically, and that would probably be a good time to maybe rip out some PowerPoint presentations or something and get some good diagrams going where we can start to clearly see these differentiations it's making between deity absolute, unqualified absolute, you know, and how all these things really relate to what we would normally call God, or God the Father, or God the Son, and the Spirit, what else there is, etc., etc. Because just reading words like this straight through it's really hard to keep the big picture and to get it. But rest assured that having read through all this stuff once before, I really do have a firm sense that there is rhyme and reason to all of it. It is very specific and deliberate language, and it is not at all just airheaded rambling. So I think the difficulty in grasping all of this lies in the subject matter being covered, definitely not in the portrayal. So the third phase of reality is talking, we have deified, undeified. The third phase, interassociated reality. Universe reality is supposedly either deified or undeified, but to sub-deified beings, of course including us, there exists a vast domain of interassociated reality, potential and actualizing, which is difficult of identification. Apparently difficult to say whether it's deified or undeified. Much of this coordinate reality is embraced within the realms of the universal absolute. So they lumped that, well, they didn't really say the universal absolute was included in the phase of undeified reality. They're just saying undeified reality extends all the way to the universal absolute. So from a certain perspective, I think it's safe to say that the universal absolute would be what encompasses all there is from a very large perspective. But I'm sure that's by no means a comprehensive and as specific a definition as the book takes on itself, and we will get to that. Like I said, there are papers that talk about this stuff more specifically. This is just a foreword. So, having discussed these phases of reality, deified, undeified, and then interassociated, meaning stuff that just isn't clear which it is based upon our finite perception. It goes on to say, this is the primal concept of original reality. The Father initiates and maintains reality. Very biblical type perspective. The primal differentials of reality are the deified and undeified. The deity absolute and the unqualified absolute. So kind of reiterating what it said before. The primal relationship is the tension between them. This Father-initiated divinity tension is perfectly resolved by and eternalizes as the universal absolute. So yeah, it's kind of tying together what it says. It's like undeified reality extends all the way to the universal absolute. Deified reality extends all the way to the universal absolute. And the universal absolute is what resolves the tension between the two and eternalizes them. or and eternalizes the divinity tension, resolves it and eternalizes it at the same time. You know, again, I keep getting this impression that the Urantia book carefully maintains this balance on the edge of reason. That this, you know, it's like our comprehension extends to the point where we reach the limit what you can comprehend from a specific vantage point, you know, when you have the illusion of separateness. And then it sits there on that edge of what is possible to comprehend and maintains, you know, that fulcrum balance. So we never lop into this side or that side. You know, we never lop into the mindset where, oh, it's all deified. It's actually all undeified, or there's something else. You know, it maintains that tension, and it says it right there. That divinity tension is perfectly internalized as the universal absolute. Hence the expression. I'm even simplifying things too much. When we were talking about undeified reality extended all the way to the unqualified absolute, deified reality goes all the way to deity absolute. Interassociated reality, where we see that tension manifest between the two, extends all the way to the universal absolute. So let's not confuse unqualified absolute with deity absolute with universal absolute. Universal absolute apparently being something that even encompasses both deity and unqualified absolute. Specific language. And I don't know if I'll ever 100% get a handle on it. I guess you get more of a handle on it as you go on. But this is the primal concept, it goes on to say, this is the primal concept of original reality. The Father initiates and maintains reality. The primal differentials of reality are the deified and the undeified. The deity absolute and the unqualified absolute. Wow, this is uncanny. That's just what I was talking about. I'm psychic. The primal relationship is the tension between them. Look at this. I was just trying to explain all this, and it does the exact same thing. Oh, wow. This book is awesome. The primal relationship is the primal relationship, in italics, is the tension between the deity absolute and the unqualified absolute. This Father-initiated divinity tension is perfectly resolved by and eternalizes as the universal absolute. Okay. I don't know whether to edit that out or not. I just read that. This is paragraph 5. I just read it twice. No, it wasn't a new paragraph. It was the same paragraph all over again. Repetition is truth. I don't know. I'm tempted to leave this just the way it is. And I apologize to those of you that were probably expecting maybe a more polished portrayal of this commentary of the Urantia book. I don't know. I've felt more led to stumble through it and to struggle through it. I guess in the hopes that I'm humanizing this stuff and making it more accessible. Hopefully, I'm not just muddling it even more. But with this stuff at the beginning that is really easy to gloss over and to just write it off as pure garbage, I think it is important, because if you take the time and slow down, go over things multiple times, think about them, go over them again, you start to see that it really is quite clear but it's just that the stuff that it's communicating is just so out there. It's so deep. It's so far beyond us that it's really incredible to me that the attempt is even made to put this stuff in the English language. And I guess to a large extent that's the miracle of the Urantia book. It spent its whole time putting things into English language, putting them down in print, and portraying things that we never thought could even be portrayed, that we never thought could be understood. These were always things, growing up as a fundamentalist Christian, these were always things that everybody said, yeah, we'll understand that when we get to heaven, and the rest was just quibbling over our opinions. It was just philosophizing. But here it is in print. Paragraph 6. From the viewpoint of time and space, reality is further divisible as, paragraph 7, actual and potential. And before we read that, see these are several headings. So it says reality is further divisible as, and this is from the viewpoint of time and space, I guess something more scientific that we could grasp. There are four areas where it says reality is divisible as: actual and potential, absolute and subabsolute, existential and experiential, personal and impersonal. So, actual and potential reality. Realities existing in fullness of expression, in contrast to those which carry undisclosed capacity for growth. The eternal Son, S-O-N, is an absolute spiritual actuality. Mortal man is very largely an unrealized spiritual potentiality. Something, it seems to me anyway, very easy to grasp. So you have reality in terms of what you have the potential of becoming, and of course you have reality in terms of something that's already perfected and has achieved its potential within a certain framework. So fullness of expression or undisclosed capacity for growth, actual and potential. And then a division of absolute and subabsolute. Absolute realities are eternity existences. Subabsolute realities are projected on two levels. Absonites, which are realities which are relative with respect to both time and eternity. And then finites, realities which are projected in space and are actualized in time. Very interesting. So of course we come at this whole question of reality from the standpoint of being finite, being projected in space, actualized in time, locked into this vantage point, giving us the illusion of separateness. But that's just the subabsolute reality projected on the level of the finite. They're saying there's also subabsolute reality on the absonite level, meaning realities which are relative with respect to time and eternity. Again, in my mind, stretching the limit of what we could comprehend about such things coming from a finite vantage point. Okay, so now we're going on to the third division of reality, is talking about existential and experiential. Paradise deity is existential, but the emerging supreme and ultimate are experiential. And again, hinting at, dare I say it, hinting at the evolution of God, meaning hinting that what we thought of as God being this already actualized entity that is unchanging, and they do say that God is eternal, of course, so all that is true from a certain vantage point, but also showing us that there is this development. And of course, as we progress and grow from a certain perspective, that's happening in this world. According to the book, it's happening on countless other worlds in the universe, as everyone is progressing up and developing, there's this experience that's being undergone, that people are collecting all of this growth, this expansion of consciousness. It also can be viewed as this growth and expansion of God himself, how he's actualizing, spreading out, manifesting in all these new ways. And I think that's what it's getting at here with this existential versus experiential aspects of God, where it says paradise deity is existential, but the emerging supreme and ultimate are experiential. And then the fourth division of reality, personal versus impersonal. Deity expansion, personality expression, and universe evolution are forever conditioned by the Father's free will act, which forever separated the mind, spirit, personal meanings, and values of actuality and potentiality, centering in the eternal Son, from those things which center and inhere, like inherent, in the eternal Isle of Paradise. So, I don't want to say that's clumsy language, it's just, yeah, walking around a very large concept here when it's talking about the eternal Son. Well, so keep in mind, we're talking about personal versus impersonal, eternal Son versus the Isle of Paradise. Okay, so you can view the Isle, I-S-L-E, like island, the Isle of Paradise being kind of an impersonal thing, the eternal Son being inherently personal. And it's saying deity expansion, personality, these are all aspects of the universal Son, deity expansion, personality expression, and universe evolution are forever conditioned by the Father's free will act, which forever separated the mind, spirit, personal meanings, and values of actuality and potentiality concerning or centering in the eternal Son from those things which center and adhere in the Isle of Paradise. And I'll have to admit, I don't 100% understand that paragraph, but I kind of get it. And I would really have to go back and read those papers where it talks about the eternal Son. Because for all these large-scale entities and subdivisions of the Godhead and stuff, the book has a description of origins. Even though these things are eternal, there can be this vantage point where you can think of origins where apparently, one concept comes together with another concept and they give birth to something else. And the eternal Son is one of those things. And if we went back and read that paper, this statement would probably make a lot more sense. Again, I'm not 100% sure why it goes there, why it says things like this in the foreword, but I'm sure there's a reason, and perhaps this foreword was intended to be read several different times. Perhaps it was intended to be read your first time through, when you're first encountering this book, like presumably now a lot of you people are coming at it this way. And also apparently, they really did intend that you would come back through this again. And I guess by nature of just how limited we are, and the way we absorb information in a linear fashion, to really understand what this is portraying, I think it really does mean cycles, many cycles of going over the material. You've got to, maybe you have to have this question about, hey, what's it really talking about, as kind of a impetus for you to pay more attention when it gets to the papers talking about the eternal Son. And then when you have as much as you could glean from those papers about the universal Son, then you come back and read this statement about mind, spirit, personal meanings, and values of actuality and potentiality centering in the eternal Son. Maybe versus the Isle of Paradise, it'll probably make more sense. And I think on the horizon, I can see this comprehension, this level where you've kind of absorbed everything revealed with this revelation to the limit of human capacity for comprehension, possibly. And then when you go back and read these high-level things where it ties everything together, it'll kind of seal the deal, and you'll get this crystal clear picture. And I don't know, I kind of hope I get to the point someday when I've got that. And I'm sure I would be much better equipped to give a commentary on the book or make videos and things when and if I get to that point. And I'm sure I will. And I'm sure they'll be a lot more beneficial on some levels to many people. But nonetheless, we continue. Paragraph 11. Paradise, in all caps, is a term inclusive of the personal and non-personal focal absolutes of all phases of universe reality. Paradise, properly qualified, may connote any and all forms of reality, deity, divinity, personality, and energy, spiritual, mindal, or material. All share paradise as the place of origin, function, and destiny as regards values, meanings, and factual existence. And then now I understand why this book starts at the top. It starts just from paradise first and works its way out. That does really make sense. It's like you can't understand the journey that you're taking without understanding the destination. Paradise is the place of origin, function, and destiny as regards values, meanings, and factual existence. I could see it. And that really does bring things full circle to the deep trance channels, like Edgar Cayce, for instance. He has this whole cosmology of us being these little sparks of light that head out from God and just explore willy-nilly in the universe and kind of lose our way and get caught up in material existence like this, and then we have to work our way back to God. You can see it from that perspective, paradise being our place of origin. And Paul Solomon, with his reading where Dion Fortune was apparently coming through and trying to describe to people this vision of all these diamonds, falling out of the mouth of God, being this instant when apparently the thought adjusters head out into the universe and do what they do and go their merry way, and eventually a lot of them becoming part of us, and from a different perspective, I guess, than being a way of looking at us as coming originally from paradise. Someday I'll see it all. I guess I can't hope to see it all, at least not in this lifetime, this meager existence, but maybe someday it'll be far, far clearer. But that's a good paragraph, I think. Showing how paradise really ties all of these together. So it gets even more specific in paragraph 12. The Isle of Paradise. Paradise not otherwise qualified is the absolute of the material gravity control of the first source and center. Paradise is motionless, being the only stationary thing in the universe of universes. The Isle of Paradise has a universe location, but no position in space. This eternal isle is the actual source of the physical universes, past, present, and future. People, you cannot get clearer than that. This is incredible. The nuclear Isle of Light is a deity derivative, but is hardly deity. Neither are the material creations a part of deity. they are a consequence. Now that's a very interesting division, because it's often I have lumped in everything that exists as being within the mind of God, connoting that it is a part of God. And very often I have said, and lots of others connote, that everything is God. And this is saying, this has a very clear perspective where it's saying the nuclear isle of light is a deity derivative, but it's hardly deity. So we're talking about, like a physical location. It's hardly deity, it's a consequence. And it's saying neither are the material creations, like this and all the others. Neither are these a part of deity, neither are we a part of God or a consequence of God. The concept of the creator and the creation. So here we go, paragraph 13. Paradise is not a creator, it is a unique controller of many universe activities. Far more of a controller than a reactor. Throughout the material universes, Paradise influences the reactions and conduct of all beings having to do with force, energy, and power. But Paradise itself is unique, exclusive, and isolated in the universes. Paradise represents nothing, and nothing represents Paradise. It is neither a force nor a presence. It is just Paradise. So, clearly using English words to describe something not comprehensible from a finite perspective. I think that's very clear when you use terms that exclude things from both sides. You say Paradise represents nothing. Nothing represents Paradise. And you say it's neither a force or a presence. It's just Paradise. Basically, taking words to their extremes, saying it's not any of those, connoting that it is a concept really beyond being able to put it into words from a finite perspective. Wow, that was section 4. So where are we for time? Holy cow, 47 minutes. With my rambling and stumbling through and inadvertently covering paragraphs multiple times, etc., we're at 47 minutes. So, wow, time flies when you're having fun. So there you have it. That is section 4 of the foreword, and I feel really encouraged to plow through here, and who knows, someday soon, maybe before a year is up, we will conquer the foreword to the Urantia book. Until then, share and enjoy. Happy reading.